U.S. Army Rangers were forged in the fire of World War II. William O. Darby trained up the first units in Britain ahead of the Allied assault on North Africa and Europe. Roger Neighborgall joined the 2nd Ranger Battalion in 1942.
And it's been pretty good material. I've had it since 1945.
He remembers the moment that he lined up as a volunteer to join this elite unit of hard men.
So I walk in, and there's the meanest looking major I've ever seen in my life. And he said, "Neighborgall," he said, "we don't trust anyone in the Rangers. Put your hands on the table." So I put my hands on the table. He pulled out a knife and drove it right in between my hands. I was petrified, but I never lost eye contact. But then he said, "You're in."
Training from the outset was brutal. The military was building a force fit to fight in the lair of the enemy.
It's a little dirty out there, but when teacher has a couple of machine gunners throwing real slugs an inch or two above your tail, mud isn't such bad company.
Ranger training equipped them for the bloody battle for Europe. The standard was set.
The Rangers were probably the best trained soldiers of the war. We could fight all day and all night. The Germans at the end of the war were really scared to death of us.
There had never been a job tougher than the D-Day invasion of Europe. The D-Day invasion needed some specialist gear. Ranger units were kitted out to kick down the Nazis' front door.
The US Army formed Ranger battalions in the Second World War in preparation for the invasion of Normandy in 1944. The British had previously created commando units, which in their original outline were simply raiding units.
D-Day was to be the Rangers' defining moment, the moment the legend was born.
The American Rangers had a more specific purpose, which was to lead conventional troops in their assaults on the beaches of Normandy.
2 specially equipped Ranger companies were given their missions. 5th Rangers were to lead the charge on Omaha, the most deadly of all the landing sites. 2nd Rangers were to take the cliffs commanding Omaha and Utah.
Scaling walls, scaling ropes, and so on and so forth was very much a part of the training, unlike the regular infantry. The Ranger battalions were well trained by the British commandos in climbing cliffs.
The morning of June 6, 1944. Roger Neighborgall was in a landing craft heading straight for the cliffs. His mission was simple: storm the beach, climb the cliffs, destroy the guns overlooking the shore.
The way the Rangers got up the Pointe du Hoc was a variety of ways. The London Fire Department gave a suggestion that the way to do it was put up fire department ladders on boats and run the boat right up to the cliff.
But these ladders led to tragedy. Not one made it. They had better luck with grappling hooks. Specially designed mortars bolted to the landing craft fired iron hooks 100 feet onto the cliff tops. Then Rangers pulled themselves up the sheer face of the Pointe du Hoc, all in the face of desperate German defense.
Not only did they have to make an amphibious assault, a landing on the beach or the shore, but they also had to go straight up the cliffs then, hand over hand, with enough equipment to fight to get to the top. All the while the Germans are firing machine guns and throwing down hand grenades.
The Germans either cut the lines or just threw them back. My company got up mostly by going up through crevices. 75 to 80 people got up the cliff.
The Rangers who survived the hail of German lead found the guns had been moved. They fanned out, discovered them a short distance away. Mission accomplished. Many units used the term Ranger in the centuries after Robert Rogers. But it wasn't until Captain William O. Darby in 1942 that it became part of the military mainstream once again. Darby was the father of a new breed of Ranger.
The Rangers are very similar to the British Commandos. Their primary responsibility is operating behind enemy lines. Of the war in Europe, at least half the time I was behind the German lines.
Darby was commissioned by the U.S. Army to create an elite raiding unit on the lines of the British commandos. But Darby's Rangers used 18th century American raiding tactics as the U.S. Army drove through occupied Europe.
We became part of Patton's Third Army. He looked at it as his eyes and ears. When you're behind the German lines, the best thing to do is hide during the day and maneuver at night. We would take patrols of 10 to 12, up to 100, and explore what was in front of Patton's army.
The Rangers were formally disbanded in 1945. Back on the beaches of D-Day, the 5th Rangers were leading the charge on the beach below the cliffs. The Rangers needed to get off the sand as fast as possible. Great mounds of barbed wire, raked by machine gun fire, stood in the way. There are ways to cross deadly walls of wire. A special weapon dating back to the British Empire served them well. Rewind back to the Bangalore torpedo, invented in Bangalore, India in 1912. It was the pipe dream of Captain McClintock of the Bengal, Bombay, and Madras Sappers and Miners Regiment. Little more than a series of 5-foot tubes packed with up to 85 pounds of high explosives. It eats barbed wire for breakfast.
It's basically a fixed line charge. The idea is to be able to take sections of pipe, which are filled with explosive, and set these sections together, affix them, and be able to push it underneath an obstacle, usually barbed wire, and to be able to use an explosive detonator to set it off.
The Bangalore blasted the barbed wire off that deadly beachhead, propelling the 5th Ranger Battalion into the fight for Nazi-held Europe.